Welcome to the Matt O'Grady Coaching Podcast. This is where Matt shares all his ideas on how to be happier, more successful, and enjoy life to the fullest. Please go to mattogradycoaching.com and thelivinggratitudebook.com to learn more and receive your free micro-coaching session with Matt. Enjoy part 2 of this episode.
So yeah, that's what I was feeling, and I think that's what I continue to feel. But I had a question for you, Frank. That you said you're going to have a little chat with Gerri. Now, when you have a little chat with Gerri, do you use the communion of light / Paul as an intermediary when you do that, or you just kind of tap in as Frank?
I was going to ask the same question.
No, I tap in as me, and I don't normally talk about this, so I thought I'd get on the radio and announce it. But no, I tap in as me. It's actually when I first started channeling the communion of light as we know them now, which was happened about 4.5 years ago. The very first thing they did, literally, was they taught me how to do this medium stuff, and I call it that because I don't do it very often, and it's kind of it's kind of an odd thing, particularly to do it with another person, because it feels like trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat, which I don't like to do that much. But yeah, no, I wasn't aware that I could do it this well until my aunt passed away about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and she just I would just sit with her and just kind of it wasn't so much words, but it was just these feelings that I had of this kind of bigger awareness, and it was specifically about our family dynamic. And it was like her sudden burst into non-physical gave her like bigger insight into the family dynamic, and a lot of things for me healed in about 24 hours after she passed away.
Wow.
And have healed like things that I was very resentful for many years just disappeared, because I suddenly got the bigger picture, and I suddenly understood, and then I reconnected with some family members I hadn't talked to in forever, and just a whole cascading series of events occurred. So it was pretty amazing, and ever since then, when I've had friends who've passed away, because a couple of friends have passed away since then, I've done the same thing, and it's so interesting just kind of sitting with them, because I realize, like, wow, now our relationship has gone to this whole new level, and in a way, it's now a lot easier to be in relationship with them, because it's just me. I'm the only one now who has the ego and has the resistance, and so it's a lot easier to be in conversation, because I don't have to worry about trying to prove something, which is what I normally do in a conversation. So that right there is amazing. So what I do just essentially is it's kind of a combination of what the communion of light taught me to do, and then plus some things that I've heard Abraham talk about. And it's just, you just reach for their higher self and sit and listen, and it's pretty amazing. And it's not always words; it's feelings and impressions and thoughts and
right.
and pictures and things like that. So I'm looking forward to it, because you guys know, in fact, all three of you know very well, because of conversations I've had with you separately about my own, because I've been very jealous of Gerri Hicks in the past, very jealous and very resentful, and feeling like I was never going to get what I wanted because they already had it, and on and on and on, very silly stuff, but very real to me. And that's really cleared up in the last 3 or 4 months in really big ways. It's changed dramatically. It started about a year and a half ago. And now I feel like I kind of was, one of the things I was regretting was that I never got a chance to meet him in person. I always believed that I would. I always thought, well, there would come this day when, our paths would cross, and I would just be like, hey, I want to thank you for all the ways that you've helped me in my work, because he really has. And now that's not going to happen in person, but in a way this is kind of better, because now I kind of get his undivided attention, which is even more awesome. And I have a lot of, practical questions to ask, things that I won't talk about, but just, I have some practical questions, well, how did you do this, and how do you do this, and how does this work? things that I've always wanted to know about the way they do their business. Because, of course, that's the way I'm always looking at them, is people who do the same work that I do. So
sure.
that I'm really looking forward to. And I'll let y'all know what I find out. Or maybe not.
I'm interested to see going forward. I mean, I assume, based upon everything that Esther said in her email that she sent out, that she fully intends to continue doing the Abraham work. And so, of course, that means, channeling for an audience. If Gerri will kind of talk directly through Abraham. I know they used to tell that story that one day that Esther suddenly felt the presence of the Think and Grow Rich guy. What's his name? It suddenly popped out of my head.
Napoleon Hill, right?
Yeah, Napoleon Hill. Right, and Gerri was a big fan of Napoleon Hill's, and he read the Think and Grow Rich book quite a few years ago, and was that book was very instrumental in getting him involved in kind of what later became the Law of Attraction. He read that book, and he read it, inspired him, and that kind of got him going in his business life and helped him to make a lot of money. And then he would go around and kind of teach people about that. In fact, I think it was at one of those workshops, that's how he met Esther, if I remember correctly, if I'm remembering the story correctly. But anyway, one day, Napoleon Hill just kind of dropped in, and Esther said, Gerri, I've got Napoleon Hill here to talk with you. And I think it was in the car, and Gerri just had this, hour and a half long chat with Napoleon Hill through Esther. And so now I'm wondering, is that kind of thing going to happen with Gerri? And will people be able to talk to Gerri from the non-physical perspective through Esther? If anybody's got any thoughts on that, I'd be interested to hear them.
That would really surprise me, considering the way that unless something really dramatic within Esther changes, it would surprise me if that happened. But I do think that what is going to happen, this would be just my guess, is that because Gerri's not there physically, not because he's not there, because he's obviously still present, but because he's not there physically, my guess is that there will be some changes in the way that Abraham comes through Esther. And it'll probably be more open, even more open, which is kind of hard to imagine, but even more open than it is already. And not because he was keeping it limited or anything like that, but just because now, it's the change in Esther actually is that's all going to be about, and what she's now willing or able or capable or wanting to let happen. But I would love it if that would happen, but it would surprise me a great deal if it actually did.
You think that's because of Esther's close relationship with him, that would be a hindrance to that kind of thing?
No, I think it's because of Esther's always had a thing about the ghostly aspects of what she's doing. And I think it's that for that reason. I think it's because
okay.
It's too much like being a medium, and it's the same reason why I don't, except now that I'm doing it, but it's the same reason I don't talk about being a medium or having that, doing that kind of technique, because I don't want to be known for that. It feels like to me that it kind of takes away from the real work that I'm really focused on. And I think that's the reason why she shies away from the word channel, because it makes people think of medium. And it's, they're definitely not the same thing.
Yeah.
So it would surprise me. It very well could happen, and it would be probably pretty delicious if it did, but that's just my thought about it.
Yeah, okay.
Phil, I just want to let you know that Barbara is on the line and just wanted to, I know she's saying something in chat, but I think she also wanted to be unmuted.
Okay. Now, do you know, I guess it's a little hard.
She said she has her hand up, so it should be, press 1, CDC.
Oh, okay, I got it. All right, Barbara, you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here, but I wrote that I knew we had to press 1, but I didn't press 1. but I've been happily chatting away in the chat room. Frank, I I just wrote, I don't know if you're looking at the chat room, but I had a thought about that, what you said about Esther. I thought, well, maybe she'll miss Gerri so much that she'll open herself up to it. You know, the contrast of missing him so much, maybe she'll align, but we'll see. It was just a thought.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. I think it's quite possible. And I think that there's all sorts of things that are probably about to happen because, as everybody knows, this is a major life event. You know, this is when someone's spouse moves on to the next thing, it's like your life changes dramatically. And so who knows what's about to happen with Esther. All sorts of possibilities are there. All sorts of really great stuff is possible. And again, not because Gerri was keeping it back, but because now she's in a very different place vibrationally. And I'm really excited to see what she does with all of this.
You know, I also had the thought that maybe Gerri will be on the call with us.
maybe
Gerri was in the shower with me today.
What, Jeanette?
Gerri was in the shower with me today, I think, because I heard the news and I was feeling from it.
Only Jeanette would say that. Go ahead.
Right.
Shower.
We want to know.
I start the iPod as I get in the shower, and sure enough, on comes "I Feel Good" by tell me his name. You guys know the one.
James Brown.
James Brown.
Yeah. I Feel Good. And I smiled and I thought that's so Gerri. And then the song after that was Sean Mullen's "Lullaby," and I thought that one was for me because I still am feeling bad about it. I know, no one's dead. I know all about the croaking stuff, but I guess I feel kind of sad for Esther more than anyone. And I know if anyone's going to handle it well, it's Esther. But I got to say, I was super excited to think that all of Gerri's questions are answered now. Got all the answers. I am happy for that.
Yeah, maybe that's why he transitioned. Maybe he was ready to get those answers in a more direct way.
I like that thought.
I thought it might be fun for us to share some stories if you had any. If you had any favorite stories about Gerri, I'll share one of mine. Maybe that might inspire some of you guys. But my favorite Gerri story is a little personal for me because it happened when I was on this cruise. I did the Alaska cruise in 2004. And if anybody is out there thinking about doing one of the cruises and they're not sure, do one of the cruises. I can tell you it's an amazing experience, especially the Alaska one because, the scenery is just so spectacular and you're so high anyway from being in this beautiful, pristine land, and the air is so unbelievably clean and you're just high from being there and being out on the sea, and then you get 15 hours of Abraham on top of it, and it's like you feel like you've transitioned. And I remember the first day of the cruise when we had our first session with Abraham. We're due to have the session, and before Esther got started, Gerri came out on the stage, and I guess this is probably what he usually did. He would kind of introduce say hello and kind of MC it a little bit, and then introduce Esther, and then Esther would bring in Abraham, and then they'd take it from there. And Gerri started talking about, this was in July of 2004, that up to that point that Esther and Gerri pretty much were happy letting the Abraham thing be relatively small. They liked it that way. They weren't really seeking a whole lot of attention other than, in the small kind of network that they had created for themselves. And they really weren't all that interested in going beyond that. As Frank had talked about, Esther always had this reticence about it getting, too big and drawing too much attention to herself. And so they were kind of like in this place of, it's really nice kind of where it's at. It's not tiny, but it's still small enough that we can manage it pretty easily, and that's fine. We connect with this amount of people that we do, and that's all good. And then he said, well, something changed for us in the last year, and we've decided that we're going to let this thing get as big as it wants to get. However big it wants to go, we're not holding it back anymore. We're just going to let it go. And we've just signed an agreement with Hay House. And Louise Hay, by the way, was on the cruise, and they introduced her, and she said hi. But we've entered into this deal with Hay House, and they're going to be publishing our new book, Asking It Is Given, and we're just going to let this thing go and see where it goes. Well, where it went was like 4 or 5 New York Times bestsellers later, it completely exploded. It went haywire. And then, of course, you had The Secret come out a few years later, and it just, and everything that went along with that, and it just got even bigger than that. And so I just remember back to that moment so clearly, with Gerri just standing there and just saying, we're just going to let it go now. We're just going to let it go wherever it wants to go. And just feeling like in that moment, I shared that moment with him where I knew it. I knew it when he said that it was going to explode. And sure enough, it did. And the repercussions are still being felt. And who knows how much bigger it's even going to get before Esther, decides to stop doing this or she makes her transition. It could be very many years. She's still a relatively young person, so who knows how many more years she's going to be doing this. And, of course, they're doing this live over the Internet now, and, how many, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that they can reach. So that's my favorite Gerri story. Any of you guys have one you'd like to share?
Be sure to come back for part 3 of this episode. Be sure to come back for part 3 of this episode. Thank you again for joining us on the Matt O'Grady Coaching Podcast. Until next time, please go to mattogradycoaching.com and theliving.gratitudebook.com to learn more and receive your free micro-coaching session with Matt.